Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Always Bayern Chelsea show. Today is Sunday, September 21st. Please please subscribe, please leave us a comment here at Always Bayern Chelsea. Thank you for being with us. Some matches to talk about this weekend. Bayern won 4-1 in the Bundesliga. Chelsea lost 2-1 in the English Premier League. Bayern over Hoffenheim, Chelsea against Manchester United, continuing their run of strange/poor form at Old Trafford. And honestly, what was a crazy weekend for us. So lots to talk about.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about. One of the worst weeks in recent history for sports for me as a fan.
We're not going to harp too much, but the Packers had one of the biggest choke jobs I can remember in a football game, American football. Brewers losing, but still clinching the division today, so at least that's a positive. But yeah, we were up north this weekend, northwest Wisconsin, in a wedding for our dear friend Jaron Fry. So Jaron, shout out to you and your lovely wife Amanda for getting married. Awesome time this weekend, and we did kind of catch the matches in between all of the rehearsals, dinners, ceremonies, receptions.
The only positive, if it's even a positive, arguably not a positive at all unless you're Bayern Munich, but I am three for my last three with score predictions. 3-1 Bayern over Chelsea, 4-1 Bayern over Hoffenheim, and Chelsea losing 2-1 to Manchester United. So too bad I'm not making any money off of this, but pretty impressive by me.
Yeah, well, I'll just say, just keep predicting Bayern wins, and we'll be all good. So yeah, Bayern got the weekend started Saturday morning. Kompany comes out with a heavily rotated lineup. One of these games for him where he usually sticks to the exact same starting 11, and then this time just kind of went rogue and really started a lot of guys who normally wouldn't start, which was good. You and I were both happy about that. We talked about that before the match on Saturday, and it's just one of those matches where you have to rest guys. You're coming off that Champions League match against Chelsea, obviously hard fought match, and Hoffenheim is a really weird team to me. They have talent, and then last year they sucked so bad, and this year they've actually been doing good, and I predicted them to get relegated. So they're just a really weird team, but yeah, honestly, it took a little while for this group of guys to kind of get used to playing to one another and getting the flow of things. But once they did, combined with a number of missed Hoffenheim chances, the game was put out of reach. So yeah, Harry Kane did it basically with another hat trick. And yeah, what do you have to say about the kind of overview of this one?
I mean, I think it's going to go down as a day where Kompany needed to rotate. He did that. He was able to accomplish that. That's great for the team. They're still one of the hottest teams in the world, one of the best teams in the world, a top three team in the world, you could argue right now. And it's a day where Hoffenheim had some chances, blew it. And when that happens, the other team pretty much always takes advantage and ends up winning. That's what Bayern did. And they were able to successfully do that even with a rotated lineup. So you could argue in so many ways it's just a massive, massive win for Bayern.
Yeah, and let's take a look at the lineup for Bayern real quick here. We had Neuer, because Neuer never rotates, even though he's supposed to give Urbig some minutes in some games here. It hasn't happened yet, but we'll see if it does. So Neuer, actually Neuer made a really bad mistake in the beginning of this match that 9.5 to 9.9 times out of 10 it's a goal for the other team. Just I don't know who he was trying to find with this pass, but kicked it right to Hoffenheim in front of the net, point blank basically, and somehow Hoffenheim fired that shot off the post. So I mean, outside of that, it was a decent enough game from Neuer, I guess, but yeah, really kind of gave us a heart attack in the beginning of the match there. The back line was Sasha Bouet at the right back spot. Jonathan Tah and Kim Min-jae were the center backs. Konrad Laimer was the left back. Decent enough game, I thought, from the back line. I mean, it was essentially a clean sheet, but they did score on a corner kick later in the game, or a free kick, I think it was, but kind of on the corner, and deflected off Kimmich into the back of the net. So can't harp on the back line too much. I did think that Kim was the best player on this back line. A shame because he did pick up an injury and had to to be subbed out. But Kim, 2 weeks, or I guess 2 games in a row, really solid in my mind. I thought he did great against Chelsea, and I think he did really good here too against Hoffenheim. So good to see that from Kim. I'm hoping to get a true rotation with 3 center backs with Upa, and Kim. Don't know if it's going to happen, but that's what I'm hoping for. And then the midfield was Goretzka and Pavlovic. Both of them I thought were solid. Like, they were fine, but they didn't really like blow me away. And we'll talk about it, but when Kimmich came into the game in the second half, things were a million times more stable and steady. Could this be Hoffenheim getting tired? Could this be Bayern just getting used to playing with each other? For sure. But Kimmich came in, and things were a lot better in the midfield. That being said, Goretzka and Pavlovic, I thought were both decent. Karl, and then Kane, Diaz, and Jackson was the attacking group. Kane and Jackson were pretty fluid. Kane is actually listed at the 9 here on SofaScore I'm seeing, which I don't know if at the 10, and Jackson is listed as the 9. I actually thought it was the other way around, but either way, they were fluid. Kane, yeah, man of the match, hat trick, and is continuing this monstrous season that he's on. Just rampaging through games, scoring 2-3 goals a pop. It's really incredible what he's done so far this season. And then I didn't think any of the other attackers here were necessarily very good. Karl, I thought, actually started off really bad before settling in the second half. And Diaz, I thought, was solid, but again, missed a couple that he could have put in. And then Jackson, I thought was pretty bad as well, but I'm not writing Jackson off or anything yet. Similar to Gittins for Chelsea, I think these guys have had a few poor performances so far, but I'm willing to give them time, and I think they'll get better.
Yeah, I liked the lineup from Kompany. You got to rest some guys. I wish he would still rest guys for full games instead of bringing them on. I think with some injuries you have as well, your backline's just going to be interesting for a while, but I don't think it's going to be a major, major issue for Bayern at this point in time. And, you ultimately are still playing Harry Kane, who scores a hat trick, and he's going to carry the team on his back when he needs to. So as long as you play key guys, bench key guys, rotate, I do think you need to rest Kane at some point, and then you could play Elise's, Kimmich's, Gnabry's when he's out. But, yeah, you just have to be happy if you're Vincent Kompany ultimately, even though the first half was not the greatest.
Yeah, and there's really not even a whole lot to talk about in that first half for this game. It was really just kind of disjointed by Bayern, poor passes. Guys looked like they weren't really sure where they should be. And Hoffenheim with a number of high energy, really well strung together passes and plays, and then they missed the actual shot. So that's kind of what it was for most of the first half. At least up until the goal that eventually did fall for Kane. Hoffenheim was probably the better team, but again, they just couldn't finish. They had a lot of nice plays and good energy, but they just missed a number of shots there that they really should have put into the back of the net. So, again, this Hoffenheim team is a confusing one for me. And yeah, when you miss some of those shots that they missed, like you said in the beginning of the match, really tough to win, especially against a team like Bayern, who's going to make you pay.
Yeah, the final third was very poor for Hoffenheim, whether it was decision-making, not making a key pass, missing a shot, not putting away a shot when you get a gift from Manuel Neuer. As I've said so many times over the years and in the intro here, when one team is not making these moments that they need to make, the other team's just going to take advantage. And that entire first half, the first 30 minutes, Bayern didn't look interested in winning this match. But I said to you, they're going to win this match and they're going to score before the half ends because I just know how these things go. And that's exactly what ended up happening. And it's unfortunate for Hoffenheim because to not take advantage in the first 30 minutes, it could have been huge for them. Whether it results in a win, if they would have scored, draw, whatever the case may be, would have been some nice momentum for them with the nice start to the year they've had. But now they'll just be looking at this as really a day where they couldn't take advantage.
Yeah, and that's another area where Bayern just always seems to step up and just show their maturity, show their experience, and close games out. We see Karl whip in a corner in the 44th minute there, and Kane is unmarked, but a couple of Bayern guys are essentially screening Hoffenheim players. So when I first saw it, I was just like, how do you not mark Kane? You know, he's the best goal scorer, or at least one of the best goal scorers in the world. How do you leave that guy unmarked? But it was just one of those set pieces that just comes right from the training ground. You know, it was clearly a designed play like that. And credit to Karl for whipping in a beautiful corner far post to Kane, who I think takes it maybe off a bounce, or I don't think it was a straight volley, but it was like off the bounce. So just a really good shot by Kane, really good cross by Karl. And, you know, again, respect to Karl for, you know, having a bad half and still being able to put that cross in and kind of get back on track after that.
Yeah, I think this corner was a combo of both teams being good and bad. Bayern good, obviously Hoffenheim poor. It's phenomenal job by the Bayern players to screen for Kane to get him open. And it's a great finish by Harry Kane. Well taken, good ball from Karl. You know, not the easiest strike, slightly off a bounce there, kind of a short bounce to put it in. But I don't know if I've ever seen a striker, arguably the best striker in the world, get that open on the corner. I mean, I don't care how well you're screening. If you're Hoffenheim, you're putting two guys on Kane. You have to do something. I mean, especially when you knew that a goal could be coming right before half. So combination of both those things just created the goal. And credit to Harry Kane again for taking advantage of Hoffenheim mistakes, whereas Hoffenheim couldn't take advantage of Bayern mistakes.
Yep. And from then on, it was pretty much all Bayern. And, you know, I want to just reiterate again, this wasn't even off of a Bayern attack. They finally scored their first goal, and it wasn't even like off of a true open play attack. It was off of a set piece. So that's got to be so brutal for Hoffenheim. 48th minute, Kane gets his penalty there, and that one was, I believe that one was the handball in the box, kind of off of a bounce off of the Hoffenheim player, but his arm is, you know, kind of out, and the ball goes off of his hand. So Kane steps up on this one, does a stutter step on this first penalty, and just again slots it home. Harry Kane is so solid, and you know, he did have that one miss earlier this year, but other than that, you just know he's going to make all of his penalties, and unsavable, just unsavable.
Yeah, he was bound to miss one. So, you know, it doesn't even really matter that much at this point because it's only been one. And he's so solid with pens. But what we're seeing with Bayern is they can just win any number of ways. They're scoring penalties, they're scoring off corners, they're getting own goals, they're getting gifted goals, they're getting dominant goals. You know, most of their goals are because they are such a high press, high dominant team, dominate possession, make all these amazing runs, link up, but then they can also do all these other things when they're not firing on all cylinders, when guys are resting, when they're not bringing their A game. So it's just, again, a credit to Bayern, a credit to Harry Kane for always finding a way to put up massive, massive numbers.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point because that shows who they are as a team, and really gets you excited about the potential for this team this season. Again, guys were getting rested in this match, which is super, super important. I can't stress enough how important that was, and I thank Vincent Kompany for that because last year he didn't necessarily show the amount of willingness to rotate as he has so far this year. So thank you, Vincent Kompany, and what a game for Bayern, because yeah, you know, it's partially like a fluky goal, right? It's off of somebody's hand in the box, and those things you don't practice for that. I guess you can't write that up in the playbook. But what it means to me is that Bayern is just so relentless that they are wearing these teams down. And, you know, I think to an extent it might have happened as well with Chelsea in the Champions League, but you know, completely different match there. But just the way that Bayern is able to be so high intensity for so long, it's extremely difficult to keep up with that. And in this Hoffenheim match, we saw Hoffenheim for a half, maybe a little less than a half, look like the better team, or at least as good of a team as Bayern. And then eventually they were just worn out. And, for so many reasons, like we said, each match is different. But I've just noticed this pattern with Bayern throughout this season that even when they do have rougher moments or they don't look as good as they can, they're still sticking together and like pushing towards that goal of wearing a team down. So happy with that. And then afterwards now is where we see these subs the company brings in, which we were kind of questioning these subs a little bit. And I'm pretty sure that company almost just had in his mind, no matter what, he was going to bring these guys in and get them some runtime, no matter what the score was at this point in the game. 62nd minute, company brings on guys who would be starters: Kimmich, Olise, Gnabry, and then Goretzka, Karl, and Jackson come off. So interesting there. I personally think I wanted to see a little more out of Karl, a little bit more out of Jackson, but um, obviously Kimmich is going to come on. There's no stopping that, even though I'd like to give the guy a little bit more rest sometimes. Um, but yeah, at this point, the game is so heavily in Bayern's favor. The scale just keeps getting more tilted towards Bayern.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I want to see guys rest for sure. It's at a point where you're having such a great start to the year where I do think you need to consider resting more of these guys more often if you can. I understand it's early and you can even push more at this early stage to get to a point where you're truly, truly in command of the Bundesliga. But I think these opening Champions League games will be important. You're going to want to play your guys there. You're missing key guys longer term, Musiala, Davies, for example, that you want to make sure you don't get other key guys hurt. And I think that's really the important thing to note here, because you just don't want to stack things on top of each other. You don't even know when those guys are going to come back or if they're going to be super great when they do come back, if they'll be up to form. Likely they won't be. So you just want to be able to plan ahead. And I think if you're Vincent, if you're the board, guys that are planning longer term and short term, all these things should come into play in my mind. Now, I understand when you bring in new players, Karl, Jackson, Bischoff, they will take some time. And maybe that's why they're not quite trusted yet. I think Chelsea's running into that where you thought they'd rotate more, but, they don't trust any of these new guys at all. So potentially that's the case as well for Vincent. Maybe he just does not quite trust guys yet, but you need to find those balances. And I think they've done a fairly good job of it so far.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I do think like it's tough to really complain too much, from me in a win like this. But the thing that I did continuously want to happen in this game was to see Bischoff. At this point, when you bring these guys in, Kimmich, Gnabry, Olise, these are like bona fide starters. You're winning the match. It's 2-0 at this point, so it's not like you're just pounding this team into the ground. But Hoffenheim isn't really showing signs of life, and you're bringing in guys that are supposed to shore things up. So like, why not also bring in Bischoff? It's just unfortunate to me because I really think, the guy's 20. He just needs to get some minutes. I don't want to just punt a season of his development.
Yeah, I agree. He's one of those guys that you are really excited about. You want to see play. You want to see him get good minutes. That's going to come against probably lesser teams a lot of times when you're going to get more 90-minute, 60-minute appearances. Other games you're going to get, 10 minutes, 5 minutes here and there. Looking at Bayern's games coming up, I will say, I think it's going to be heavy, heavy, heavy with the usual guys. It looks like a pretty tough stretch here. They got Werder, looks like, but then you got Champions League, Frankfurt, Dortmund, Champions League, and I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but rotation just could be tough, I think. And so we'll see. As I said, it's just all about finding that balance. Focus on winning right now. They're winning right now. So, again, these are really just some ancillary topics that Vincent has to be considering, but probably not at the forefront of his mind.
Yeah, and to be perfectly clear, I think Company did a great job with this one overall. I think I'm just super happy with how Company's been as a manager so far for Bayern, and I think he's getting better, and this year he's showing me improvement, which is the main thing that I wanted to see. Just, these are just things we think about and things we have to keep in mind as we really want to try to be the best of the best this season. But yeah, overall, like, it's tough to look at this game and say Kompany was very much in the wrong at all. So we move forward now, 69th minute of this game. We do see Kim Min-jae go down with an injury. It doesn't sound like it's going to be that serious of an injury, although how many times have we heard that before from Bayern, and then these guys are out for months. So we'll actually have to wait and see. But yeah, it looked like it was just a cramp, actually, because this was one of those matches where it was apparently super, super hot. Even though it is late September in Germany, Oktoberfest starting here too. So shout out to that. But yeah, so we do have to see Upa come on for Kim, and not. I don't know if Kompany was trying to rest Upa this whole game or not, but we don't really have any other options at this point.
Yeah, you never want to see guys go out, that's for sure. Hopefully it's nothing too serious at this point for him. And yeah, like I said, just unfortunate, especially because he did play pretty well. Again, agreed that he played well against Chelsea. So it's always good to have center backs that are in form. We know Upa's been in form most of the year. Ta, yes and no, it's up and down, but his history with Leverkusen in the league is one that's phenomenal. And overall, you do trust what he brings to the table. You know what he brings to the table. And Kim, we know he has the potential to be a top defender. His time in the Serie A, up and down at Bayern, but there's been some injuries there. And then you have some other options as well, Stanisic, once he gets back. But I think overall, when these guys are healthy, you feel fairly solid. But that's why you just, as I keep saying, health, such an important part for this season.
Yeah, it really is, because yeah, we are seeing some interesting formations and players playing out of position and whatnot with the current injury situation for Bayern's back line. But nonetheless, Bayern continues to look rock solid in the Bundesliga, at least. So, I mean, and in the Champions League, but they've only had one match. So yeah, we'll see how things progress here, and we hope to get some guys back soon. But shortly after that, 75th minute is when we do have the final third goal in Harry Kane's hat trick. Olise draws this penalty here in the box going down. I believe it was a foot getting stepped on situation, if I remember correctly. But honestly, with the wedding this weekend and everything, it feels like this game was so long ago. But yeah, Olise goes down in the box, and Kane steps up to the plate. This time, no stutter step, just runs right through, blasts the penalty in. Again, unsavable. Again, Harry Kane is on a monstrous stretch right now where he's just scoring, assisting, doing everything multiple times in every game. And yeah, I mean, you said it earlier, but if Kane can stay healthy this season, I think he could break Lewandowski's goal scoring record. It's all about health. It's all about form, staying in form. But I really do think Kane is just poised for an absolutely insane, like, historic season this year for Bayern. I think, like, Tuchel's Bayern, it's tough to score that many goals, and he actually was on pace and almost got to that record. Anyways, and Kompany's first season and injuries last year, things were kind of up and down at certain points, but I really just feel like Kane is so locked in with this team right now. I think he's just on pace for such an insane season. And again, with these penalties, makes one thing that makes it so hard to stop is we saw the first one was stutter step. This time he just ran right through. He'll go low right corner, high right corner, low left corner, high right corner. You never know down the middle. You never know where he's going to go and how he's going to take it. So it's just truly incredible what he's doing right now.
Yeah, he puts up numbers no matter what the game is, no matter who the opponent is. He scores against every Bundesliga team. He scores against every Champions League team, DFB Pokal. He just scores. And he can put it anywhere. His teammates want him to go Panenka next time. He probably will, and the goalie still won't stop it, even though they know it's coming. So Harry Kane is one of one at this point, and he continues to impress, continues to show that he is one of the best players in the world. And it's very impressive. No doubt it's impressive because the numbers are they're just insane. I mean, it's tough to even really comprehend how high these numbers are getting for Harry at this point at Bayern.
Yeah, and this game we didn't see him get a rest, but I do like how Company's been managing him so far this year. I mean, he's had a number of games where he's come out in like the 80th minute or whatever, just not playing a full 90. So far so good. Let's just keep things on track with Harry Kane. But yeah, Bischoff actually did come in later in this game. Talked about him a little bit before. I want to see him more, but Sasha Bouet had to go out injured. Haven't heard anything about him. I think this one was just a cramp, but really tough to say. So yeah, Tom Bischoff comes on late in this one and doesn't have enough time to actually really influence the game in a way where I can say he was good or bad necessarily. But we did see one more goal at the death of this match, and it was the goal of the match for sure. Serge Gnabry, who continues to impress, continues to stay in form. We talk about this all the time with Serge, but when Serge is in form, he's really, really good. Like he's an insane goal threat when he is in form. He can dribble by people. He can use quick bursts of speed to get into some space and then fire off shots and make shots at angles that are physically marvelous. And that's what happened in this one. I believe it was a Kane shot goes off Bauman, and Gnabry finds himself again like almost even with the goal and somehow shoots in an outswinging bending shot that just clips the side of the net and goes in. Really incredible stuff from Serge there again, who just played maybe 40 minutes or so in this one, and yeah, still left his mark. So shout out to Gnabry for that one.
Yeah, a really nice tidy finish by Serge there to score at that angle was a thing of beauty. Serge continuing his fine form even when he didn't get the start. He continues to cook, and that's the special thing about this Bayern team right now is that they're again able to do all this while resting. Guys continue to stay in form, and I think that's a huge thing. Momentum is a massive thing in sports. We see it all across the board in many athletic competitions, and Serge is a fine example of that right now.
Agreed. So I'll throw out some match awards here, and then we'll close off this Bayern discussion. Man of the match is obviously going to be Harry Kane. Robin of the match, I'm going to give this one to Kimmich just because of what I mentioned, how different the team looked when he was off the pitch versus when he was on the pitch, how much more organized, how much more in flow, how much more Kimmich being on the pitch lets other players be better, allows them to find more space, allows them to be more creative with the ball. So that's why Kimmich is my Robin for this one. Defender, I'm giving to Kim. Thought he was pretty much far and away the best defender in this one. Again, almost a clean sheet, which I didn't even talk about their goal except when I was giving the overview of this one. But after Bayern's third goal, Hoffenheim did find a goal in this one off of again, I believe it was a free kick from kind of the side area. Weird deflection off Kimmich, and it might have gone in anyways, but Neuer would have at least had a chance to save it. Because of the deflection, he had no chance to save it. And then underrated, I'm going to go with Serge for the reasons we just talked about. The man's been cooking, and Serge is my underrated player.
Yeah, and no issues there. Kane clearly the Batman on the day. If I had to choose a Robin, I would just go Nico Jackson because I like the guy. By that, I don't even know if I really like the guy. I just wanted to slip another comment about him in there. But moment of the match, which I love picking out these, you have to go with the Neuer mistake leading directly to a shot off the post for Hoffenheim, because it was at that moment that I knew Bayern were going to win this game by at least 3 goals, as originally predicted by me. Because if you're not scoring that, you're not doing much else. And that's exactly what happened. So shout out to the post for that play.
All is fair with that one. Yeah, again, only other thing I want to mention, Diaz towards the end of the match had a really good shot to score another goal, but missed. Tried to chip it over the keeper, hit the post, and had a couple of shots in this one I thought he could have did better with. But again, I'm not burying the guy. Just something to mention.
To be fair, kind of a nice chip. Little unlucky to be off the post there. Maybe just the spacing was a little bit off. So I don't really put that much blame on Diaz for it. Should you put it away? Sure. I just think it's tough when you're hitting the post there.
Yeah, so now I'll leave it up to you as to how much we want to or don't want to talk about the Chelsea match, but they did lose to United at Old Trafford. Just another crazy, crazy match. Pouring rain, Sanchez gets sent off right away. Eventually, later on in the match, a second yellow for United. So it's just a weird, weird match that I don't know how much you want to take away from, but I will give you the floor to kick things off on this one, and we'll see how much you want to take away from it.
Yeah, kind of a blur because we had a lot going on. You're trying to get ready for this wedding. You're watching Chelsea play at Old Trafford, which is a haunted bogey match venue for Chelsea over the years, as we've seen. So it was despicable when you have a absolute moron of a man in Robert Sanchez go out for a challenge that you have zero reason to ever go out for. And that's my problem with Sanchez is all his mistakes that we've seen over the last few years are decisions that are incorrect. He does not know how to make these decisions. The guy has more athletic ability than really any keeper in the entire world, let's be honest. We've seen the saves that he can make. We've seen that he at times can be great with the ball at his feet. But it's right here between the ears that he is not up to snuff. And that's what's so disappointing, I think, is that decisions like that will cost you every single time. And when you do that in the third minute, you're not going to win the match, most likely, when you have 87 minutes with one less guy. That's what's disappointing to me.
Yeah, and it sucks. It just sucks. And I felt like Sanchez was having a really solid season up until this point. And he's the guy, rightfully or wrongfully so, that takes the most flack for Chelsea out of their whole team. And it's often because his mistakes that he does make are the most consequential, as you see in a match like this. I mean, Chelsea already starting behind the eight ball, and right after that, Enzo Maresca, I think, kind of panics and just tries to make some subs and go all defensive. You have Palmer, who's dealing with injury as well, has to come off. So tough to manage this game. Did Enzo manage it correctly by going so defensive right away? I mean, you say no after the fact when you look at the score, but tough to say in the moment. It's not something I don't. It's not something I think I would do, but you can see the thought process behind it, I guess.
I think we can say no in the moment, and I think it's because when you combine the fact that he knew Palmer wasn't totally fit going in with the fact that he's taking off his best attackers in that first 20 minutes, it's shambolic because you take off Neto and Esteval right away. Okay, Neto is one of your best defensive running guys that you want to keep. If you're going to keep attackers on, keep a guy like that. He's a guy that with 10 men, you're going to need guys, exactly with his profile.
Mm-hmm.
Take Palmer off, if anything, because he's not fit. How is he going to do anything playing with 10 men? You're going to have to cover more ground, and you're not fit. That's just a disaster. And we saw it was a disaster because he has to be pulled right off. So to me, yes, it's tough with 10 men. It's going to be impossible for 87 minutes. We saw eventually they get lucky. United gets, the red to make it 10v10, but you're expecting to be 87 minutes with one less man. So in my opinion, you don't have to go so defensive because you have the entire match to feel things out and see what's up. Let's say you get a red card in the last 10 minutes. Yeah, you're going to go super defensive because potentially all you need is to hold on for a draw or hold on for a win, whatever the score is at that time. It's not like they scored a penalty, right away. This red was just him going off, and it was still 0-0. So that was the tough part for me. I do think that was a mistake by Maresca. It was a bit of a panic, like you said, and you cannot be panicking when you're Chelsea Football Club.
Yeah, I think you explained that well, and I would tend to agree with you. And I think really, I don't want to say the biggest mistake, but arguably the biggest poor / wrong decision by Maresca in this one was to start Palmer. And, we're not behind the scenes. We don't know what the doctors are saying, but I'm just always on the side of be more conservative with these guys at this point in the season. And if he really is only good enough to give you, I don't know when he was subbed out, the 20th minute or something, if he's only good enough to give you 20 minutes, you might as well not play him. I really do think that at this point in the season, rest him up, give him another week or so to be healthy, and see what he can do then. I just don't get the point in trying to start him and then pull him so early if he's really that like iffy on if he can really play or not.
Yeah, you got to make decisions at some point to see what your team is made of, what other guys you can count on, because at this point, it's just not looking good. I think, as much as the red kind of destroys everything for you, the 2 goals United score aren't great defending either. And the second in particular is putrid defending with a poor clearance from James. The center back's not going up to try to head the ball. Jorgensen doesn't go out to claim. We know Jorgensen is pretty much just a terrible keeper at this point from what we've seen. And then they score easily. And the first one was a decent goal, I'd say, by Bruno Fernandes. But ultimately, Chelsea just weren't able to do anything in this match, even when they end up controlling with 59% possession. That's kind of the crazy thing is they did at times look to be controlling part of the match, but zero attacking threat whatsoever, combined with the poor defense. So that's what sucks as well. We're just seeing a lot of really poor individual play from Chelsea. Combine this match with the Bayern match, the Brentford match, really one of the worst weeks we've seen Chelsea put up under Enzo Maresca, you could argue.
I was down, getting ready and setting up chairs and stuff, so I missed a good portion of this match, so I can't give you a ton of specifics about it. But, I'm never personally confident with Jorgensen. I know last year there was a lot of call for him, at least on the Twitter accounts that we follow, calling for him to start over Sanchez, and I just never saw it. I never see the confidence in him that I need to see in a keeper. That's the biggest thing for me personally. Weirdly enough, is to see confidence in keepers. And obviously Neuer is supremely confident, maybe to a fault sometimes, but I see this confidence in Urbig too at Bayern. I didn't see it with Peretz. I'd never see it with Nubel. So, there's just this it factor that I need to see in a keeper. And I don't really see it with Sanchez, but Sanchez is so physically gifted that he can at least do that, where I don't think, Jorgensen is as good of a shot stopper as Sanchez. And then obviously the mental side, it's tough to say, but we know Sanchez can make mistakes. I've seen Jorgensen make mistakes as well. And I'm just not confident with him there, not confident with him right now as a leader for Chelsea. And I know he's younger, so maybe someday he can get there, but it's just tough. It really is. And I would, I know you feel this way. I'm sure many Chelsea fans feel this way, but I would definitely be exploring the keeper market. January might be tough, but next summer for sure.
It's a tough spot because at keeper, we knew it was a position going into the season that could be one of our weak points. We knew center back was as well, which we've really seen after the Colwill injury especially. Here's my take that I wanted to bring up. I go into this year talking about how I trust Enzo Maresca. I trust the sporting directors. If they think Sanchez is going to be good for this year, I'm going to trust that. If they think they're making moves-wise in the transfer window is good, I'm going to trust that. Bringing on some of these young attackers, not getting a center back after Colwill goes down, even before Colwill goes down. I'm going to trust that because the moves they have made so far, what I've seen from Enzo Maresca so far, I have approved of. That being said, if that's the case, and that's my opinion, so far this season, I'm placing the blame solely on those two parties. And yes, there's a ton of individual mistakes that Chelsea players have made specifically, and you can put those mistakes on the players. But they're in those positions because of Maresca and because of the sporting directors, and therefore I'm putting the blame on them because you don't get a better keeper. And we see the mistakes Sanchez makes here. Yes, he's been good up until that point, but this game is on them for that. Every single game, essentially, we have seen center backs that haven't performed quite well, except for arguably Crystal Palace when Achimpong played. Hasn't played since, might I add. That, to me, is on sporting directors, maybe not even on Enzo, because it sounds like he wanted a center back. So that, I think, is what's frustrating is you have these two glaring weaknesses potentially, and they didn't view them as weaknesses. Now we're seeing they are weaknesses. So clearly there's something missing there with them.
I can't say I disagree. Yeah, I certainly can't say I disagree. I do think when everybody's healthy, keeper is the biggest weakness in this Chelsea team. But obviously, you need some more depth in that back line just in general. I don't know if Hato is going to provide that. I just haven't seen enough yet out of him to know if he's going to provide that depth for Mark Cucurella on the left back side or if he's going to provide that depth at the center back position. So that's my take as well. I'll agree with you on that one.
It's frustrating because I feel like I was preaching so much before the season started that Colwill is going to be such a massive loss. And I think most people would agree, but maybe didn't panic as much as I was a little bit. And it sucks because a lot of times you don't know what you had until it's gone for some people. And that's really what we're seeing. In possession, again, you just miss him a ton with what he sets up. Leadership, clearly missing a ton with that. Decision making. These guys don't know exactly what to do as Levi did. And it's unfortunate because this team we know has the talent. Are we going to see them put it together? I just really don't know for sure. They have to push through. They have to push through in this tough stretch and see if they can come out better on the other side of it. That's just what you hope for when you're dealing with adversity here.
Yeah, and it's tough. We're gonna have to see if Chelsea can put things together once Colwell does come back. Fortunately, you'll get him back at a time where hopefully the season starts to heat up. But I'm not convinced. With the Club World Cup, with the World Cup next year, we talked about it when we were talking about Bayern. Rotation is going to be so key this year for every team. And unfortunately, I'm not convinced that we're going to see a lot of healthy squads at the end of the year across the board, across Europe. I just think it's too much on these guys. They're going to get injured, whether it's freak injuries like Musiala actually in the Club World Cup or, down the line, March, April, May, whenever. I think we're just going to see a lot of guys get injured and it sucks, but I think that's how the world of football is going. And like sporting directors and clubs are going to have to reevaluate their squads and just really plan for that. And that like sucks to say, but I really think they're just going to have to start to plan for that more and more.
And that's all we heard about Chelsea did plan for the Club World Cup, and yet it wasn't enough. So that's the tough part about it. But I do want to end this Chelsea period with a positive note, shouting out a couple of guys here. Chalobah does score a goal late for Chelsea. I still actually haven't seen the clip of the entire goal. I think Reece got the assist, might have been partially off the corner. I'm going to have to actually watch that back to see. But always good to see Chalobah score. Love the guy. And then I want to shout out Wes Fofana. I did think he had a good game. He didn't end up playing the entire match. We'll see if he's going to be fully fit at some point. But if he is fully fit, he is a threat and a great central defender for Chelsea. Shout out to João Pedro. Guy has been unreal in terms of his availability, pushing through some illnesses, some periods of not being 100% fit, coming off international break. Even though he hasn't scored in the last couple, the fact that he's there pushing, playing every single match is huge for this team. And then a shout out to Andre Santos. The guy deserves to play. He needs to start a match at some point here. When are we going to see another midfielder start besides Caicedo, Enzo, Palmer, or Reece James? We need to see Andre Santos get more time. The guy is a great, great player. What he can provide for this team will be huge this season. So please, Enzo Maresca, just play him. See what he's got. And no, I do not mean play him against Lincoln City on Tuesday in the EFL Cup. I mean start him against Brighton this coming weekend.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. Similar to how I feel about Bischoff, you need to see what these guys can bring you. And I think, you know, I think Enzo Fernandez hasn't necessarily been good enough this year to warrant a start every single match. And then on the flip side, I think Caicedo has been so good this year that you actually do need to rest him, or else he's going to burn himself out, just like you see with a guy like Kimmich. So there's two reasons there to start Santos on either side of that midfield. And then, yeah, I do think that Chalobah has surprised me this year. Well, I shouldn't even say surprised me because I predicted him to have a pretty good year. So he surprised maybe some other people. But he had that mistake against Bayern, and he's not the perfect center back by any means. But I do think what I've seen from him so far this year, he can work in like a center back rotation, or as long as he's maybe not the primary leading center back, I think he can work at times. So, there was a point last year where he was sent on loan, and it seemed like he was going to be gone forever. So I'm glad he's back and at least offering something.
Yeah, totally a great depth piece, and that's maybe the issue.
Yeah, agreed. Well, again, I don't have anything else to add about this Chelsea match as I missed a lot of it, and we were on the road today, cutting up a rug last night. So I can't really add anything else.
Yeah, we've already spent too much time on that putrid performance.
Cool. Well, be sure to subscribe to the Always Bayern Chelsea YouTube channel right here. Leave a like, leave a comment. Let us know what you think about this kind of new setup we're doing. And go ahead and check out all the content we've been putting out lately, and we will be putting out some more. So go ahead and do that. We really appreciate everybody who subscribes and joins in on this conversation in this beautiful, blossoming football community.
Yeah, going to be so much action coming up. Obviously, Chelsea do play this week, as I mentioned, in the EFL Cup. So tons of analysis for both squads as the season heats up.
We'll send us off now. That's all we got to say for this one. Congratulations to Jaron and Amanda Fry and Mia San Mia.
Up the Chelsea, live long and prosper.